Change champions, I salute you. This is yet another day that we are meeting by the grace of the Almighty. Thank you so much for those that continue to support the platform, those that are always waiting for the updates. We are here live with Shatufa as we are continuously giving you activities, events, and whatever is happening in our country and even outside the country. The freedom of the Zimbabwean people, this is the gospel. All right, it's happening again in Zanu PF. Rutendo Matinyarare further attacks Chris Mutsvangwa, calling him a sellout. It seems chickens come home to roost in Zanu PF. There is no rest. They are eating each other day in and day out. It's fight after fight after fight, because it is the time that the Lord, our God, is bringing confusion in the camp of the enemy. We are not going back. We are not surrendering. We are not giving up. And we know that the time of our freedom has come. And definitely, when we see things like this happening, family, you know that God is on the move. Rutendo Matinyarare on his tweet account is written, why was Zanu PF spokesperson never under US sanctions? Has anyone ever wondered why Chris Mutsvangwa and his wife have never been put under US or EU sanctions? Why were they free to travel to the US when most Zim government officials when most government officials were not? When they went to the US, who did they meet? I was told a very interesting story by a person in the US system. So this is BENSON Matinyarare. Remember, this is a Zanu PF apologist, a Zanu PF Murakashi, and he is actually attacking one of their own. When you see this happening, the attack that is happening on each other in Zanu PF, the throwing of stones, the shoving, what is happening, the shoving and pushing, we can see that indeed there is a lot that is going to be coming up. Like I've always been saying, we are waiting for quite a lot to happen. Remember, there were many of these issues that are coming up as to why there is a fallout between Emmerson Mnangagwa and Chris Mutsvangwa. And Mutsvangwa, having been understood that is playing the clever, who is going around, selling information and, going behind the back of Emmerson Mnangagwa and other Zanu PF big wigs and, discussing some other issues that are in contrary to probably what they are agreeing. So it looks like Mutsvangwa is already paving way for his ascendance to power. Obviously, this is not new in Zanu PF. It's expected. Mnangagwa could be punishing Chris Mutsvangwa today for what Mutsvangwa could be doing, but this is the very same thing that Mnangagwa has also done to Robert Mugabe. Not only that, also Robert Mugabe also did it, the same thing also to Ndamaningi Stole. They also did that to Herbert Chitepo. If you look at the history of Zanu PF, you find that the issue of treachery, the issue of coups, removal of a leader in an unclandestine manner, it has always been happening in Zanu PF. So it's like there is never smooth transfer of power in Zanu PF according to history. We have seen that it's either somebody has to be killed, somebody has to be removed forcibly, and at the end of the day, we see the ascendance of the other individual to power. So the same thing that Mnangagwa is also causing for himself when he starts to declare the 2030 mantra, it is already signaling to the others that I'm not going anywhere. I have no plan of going anywhere. And this is the very, very reason that causes other people to start now planning and plotting against them and trying to cause their downfall. I think it is their own doing in Zanu PF. Zanu PF has not taught itself to have a culture of coming into power and going out. And it begins from individuals right inside Zanu PF to Zanu PF as a whole party. It does also not want to go and pave way for another party to come into power. So this is the scenario. So a lot is being said about Chris Mutsvangwa and him selling out to the Russians, to Chinese, and also to the US government. And indeed, it is very true. What Matinyarare is saying is true, because Chris Mutsvangwa really, with his wife, they always travel to the US, even when sanctions were still very hot. They were still traveling to the US. Why would Chris Mutsvangwa, at his position in Zanu PF, would never be put under sanctions? Somebody will have to ask questions, indeed. And Mnangagwa also did the same thing. You remember the story that they always talk about of how Mnangagwa was arrested and they were sentenced to death. Him and the other comrades were sentenced to death. They were hanged by the Smith government, and Mnangagwa was spared last minute. And the reason that they give was that he was too young, he was underage, and things like that. But the truth of the matter is that he was saved by the father of is it Billy Rottenberg, because he was a minister of security in the Smith regime. So this guy is the one that saved Mnangagwa, because Mnangagwa was giving information about some other events that were happening in the struggle. He was selling out information, and that is why he was saved. This guy, if I said his name correctly, who is also part of the gold mafia, his father was a minister in the government of Ian Smith, and the minister of security, if I'm right, or home affairs, something like that. That's the man who was given information by Mnangagwa. So the selling out of Mnangagwa did not start today, it started then, and that is what saved him at the end of the day. But of course, when they misconstrue information, they would come back and say he was saved because he was too young and the like, then he ended up being deported back to Zambia, where he originally comes from. And Zanu PF guys, they don't want to hear us talking about that. They want to fight so hard, and they want to continue to say that, no, he comes from Shabane, or this you are saying is just from your head. But the truth still remains that Mnangagwa comes originally from Zambia. You remember the sister also at one point was interviewed. There is an interview of a sister who looks exactly like Mnangagwa, you know, square, like they are so much alike like buns. She was talking about his cunningness, how Mnangagwa was very cunning when they were growing up and what. But she always referred to Zambia, and all these things were happening when they were there and when they were young and growing up. So it is a fact. Well, if he has come into Zimbabwe and he managed to naturalize himself in Zimbabwe and became a Zimbabwe citizen, is it a crime? It's not a crime. Nobody will ever tell him to go back to Zambia, even if he agrees or he comes out clean that he comes from Zambia. Because once somebody naturalizes in a country, he becomes a citizen of that country. It's not a sin. You can still be president as long as you now get that citizenship. There is nothing wrong with that. We have seen Zimbabweans who are now British citizens who have already been elected into mayors. They are now mayors. You still remember that other mayor who has been elected? Is it in Glasgow somewhere there? He's a Zimbabwean guy. But so there's nothing wrong with that, but only that they know that it carries quite a lot of information that will end up being reviewed. That's why they refuse. So Chris Mutsvangwa still being attacked by Zanu PF members because of what he is deemed to be doing when he goes outside. It shows that the struggle for power is very, very high in Zimbabwe, in Zanu PF, and that's why we continue to see the persecution of his son, and we continue to see Mnangagwa refusing to grant bail to Neville Mutsvangwa. He is still languishing in jail, and we are going to be doing a story on what exactly is happening to Neville Mutsvangwa in the coming shows. So, family, this is just an update of what we are giving you as updates of the day. So we are going to continue giving you more and more information on what is happening. We are standing for the freedom, and the freedom is our portion. Freedom for the Zimbabwean people is what we are fighting for. We are never going back. We are pushing and pushing hard and even harder on Emmerson Mnangagwa and Zanu PF to make sure that the freedom of the Zimbabwean people is realized. And indeed, it is a reality. It is coming to pass. For those that have not yet subscribed, please subscribe to this very channel and also share and like. You will continue to receive information each time that we are live. So continue to promote the channel. The gospel of the freedom of Zimbabwean people is what we are committed to. So family, thank you for joining me. I'm going to be bringing more and more updates, and we are going to be together on the channel until we will cross over to the main channel, Chatufa Television Production.